the longer that I go on with this weightlifting journey that I'm on, this obsession of, getting stronger, learning the body, learning all of the elements involved in moving a barbell from point A to point B, the squat, the deadlift, the bench, the more I kind of understand, strength, the more I look into it, the more I think about it, the more I realize the whole story is basically about stabilization. It's more about the supporting cast than it is about the actual prime movers. I think we all leak power like nobody's business. I don't know how many times I've squatted and I'm pushing the hell out of it. But the more I push, the more I'm kind of rounding over, the more I'm collapsing underneath the bar. It's almost like the analogy of having a kick-ass engine in a car. It's X amount of freaking horsepower. It's something really impressive, like 1,000 horsepower. And you drop that clutch, you don't go anywhere, man. You're just spinning wheels. I remember the first time I realized this when I was freaking 20 years old. I realized, my God, it's not really about the horsepower of the car. It's about all the other stuff. It's how much power can you put to the ground? How much of it is actually usable? So many times I would see cars on the road, man, like unassuming cars, like a freaking, I think it's called a Mazda Miata, in the States. It's called an MX-5 here. Or something like this, some tiny freaking car, absolutely smashing it. And there you go, you're like a 600-700 horsepower freaking V8, massive family car, just lagging behind. And then you kind of realize, holy shit, it's the power to weight ratio. This car has like half the power, but it also has half of the weight. It's like a full paradigm shift to think, oh shit, it's not just about the power. It's about all the other stuff. It's kind of like starting a lawnmower, right? I know this is a crazy freaking thought, but I was doing the lawn yesterday and I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm yanking that cord to start the thing, right? I'm yanking it. And I think to myself, like, my core, this is how much I think about this stuff, man. Even when I'm doing the freaking lawn, I'm thinking about this. As I'm yanking that cord, I'm thinking about my core. That cord is like my core. Imagine if that cord that starts the lawnmower, the one that you pull on, it was made out of rubber, or like it was like a rubber band. So you're yanking that thing, and that actual cord is denaturing, it's deforming and leaking all the power that you've generated with your body. It's not even getting to the damn motor to start it. Because the cord itself is just malleable, it's collapsing, it's completely flexible. It's not transferring that force into the engine. That's what the core is. I reckon, I don't know how, but if you were to somehow 1-to-1 ratio, power generated, power going into the bar. If you could somehow lock that in. I know we use belts and squat briefs and suits and all this sort of stuff to try do that. But imagine if you could somehow do it 1-to-1. So every little freaking bit of energy that you create through those prime movers gets transferred into the lift. I just wonder how much our strength would go up. The craziest thing about all of this is that we all focus on the primary movers. We focus on the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings, that stuff, the big guys, the engine. But it's not sexy to think about doing a freaking sit-up or a leg raise or ab wheel rollouts or plank or whatever you do. It's not sexy. But when you start getting deeper and deeper into your lifting journey, you start to realize, hold on a minute, man. There's no point, getting a massive turbo. There's no point increasing the size of the cams, like all this sort of stuff, the fuel pumps. There's no point doing that. My tires are shit, man. My tires are so skinny, it's like a freaking bicycle, man. Doesn't matter how much power I got, nothing's going to the floor. When I started thinking about my squat, and I started thinking about, okay, do I have weak legs or weak back in relation to my squatting ability? Where am I breaking down? And then I started looking into the back, after I looked at the legs, obviously, everyone wants the big legs. When I started looking into the back, I realized, shit, man, like all of this back work that I'm doing is making me feel like I can grind through the weights. So no longer do I fail a squat where I kind of drop down, go back up, and as soon as the momentum stops, I gotta bail. I gotta bail, man, because that's the end of my squatting or my pushing ability. That's the end of my leg strength. I can't catch that momentum with my back. I can't grind it out. So when I started getting stronger with the back, I realized, oh, okay, I can actually catch this momentum now and just grind it out. So that back and the core, the back and the core, I feel like are the same thing because it's one side and the other. Like they have to work in unison. You know, if you want to have a strong lower back, you're going to have a strong set of freaking abs. There's no way, you know, around it. So then I started realizing I got to pay attention to all this other stuff. Squatting is not just about quads, man. If squatting was just about quads, everyone that the leg presses, I don't know how much freaking weight, man, 1,000 freaking pounds, they would have a better transfer over from the leg press to the squat, but they don't. Why? It's because when you get really good at the leg press and you spend so much time at the leg press, you're just basically working the quads. Yeah, you might get a bit of adductors, you might get a bit of glutes, but all the other stuff, the back, basically from waist up, is not doing anything. So when you go to the squat, all of these accessory muscles, which are supposed to be as strong to support the squat, they're not even like, they're not a team with the lower body. And there's a massive disconnect. And so I've heard a lot of you guys tell me about massive discrepancies in between your leg press and your squat. The only way to explain that is that you don't have accessory muscles, the supporting muscles, the stabilizing muscles to support that big ass engine that you got in the hood. That's your engine. The engine is the pushing power. You also need the stabilization of the pulling muscles, of the core muscles, of the back muscles to stabilize all of this. You know, it's not sexy, man. I'll be the first one to say, like, I don't have fun doing freaking, you know, sit-ups. I don't have fun doing leg raises. I don't have fun doing lying leg raises or whatever else I freaking do for the core. But I've come to realize that that is actually where we should spend most of our points. A lot of us, you know, I would say a lot of us can lift more weight right now. Right now. As only if we could somehow, over the next 4 to 8 weeks, just focus on the core and somehow to make sure that we don't, you know, lose power in the primary muscles for the next 8 weeks. So focus most of your efforts into the core. I reckon you get stronger, man. I reckon the deadlift goes up. I reckon the squat goes up. For the bench press, it's the core is not so important as in the core. For the bench press, I think it's more upper back. You know, I'm not really good with the bench press. It's not my thing. I don't spend a lot of time for it, you know, thinking about it. But the logic would serve, you know, the upper back is the thing that stabilizes the shoulder girdle and the pushing and whatnot. Similar to the squat and deadlift, you're kind of looking at the stabilizing things, except with the squat and the deadlift, the whole freaking body's used. Everything's used. Although you could, you know, argue that the bench press is also a full body thing. I've never realized any of that, but all the really good bench presses talk about leg drive and whatnot. So it probably has a place, definitely. But, you know, wherever I look, I think to myself, yeah, that's great, man. That is fantastic. But what could you do if you really just focus on your core? And this is where we see a lot of these freaking guys on Instagram and YouTube, skinny ass guys like deadlifting stupid numbers, you know. And you look at their legs and you're like, what the hell's going on there, man? Like the hamstrings are not popping out of that freaking skulls, man. What's going on there? What the hell's doing the work? And then you realize he's just maximizing living. He's got those tires. He's got 335s at the back, man. You know, he's got 335s at the back, all bigger. I don't even know, like, and you're using 245s for your rear wheels, right? Doesn't matter how much power you got, man. He's putting every little thing that he has on the ground and he's propelling him forward. That's the difference. And when we start thinking about that, yes, it's not freaking sexy, but when you start thinking about that, you start feeling better under the bar, man. You start really engaging and having that mind-muscle connection of your core. Understanding that this is where the leak is. Just look at our structure. The neck, unsupported. There's nothing supporting it. Then you have the thoracic spine. He's got the rib cage around it. That's a lot of solidity there. That's a lot of, you know, bony tissue supporting structures all around. After that, you have the lumbar spine. Same thing as the freaking neck, man. There's nothing else going around it other than the muscles, right? We don't have bony structures around there. So that core, you know, the obliques, external, internal, rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, you know, lower back muscles, the erectors, the QL, all that stuff, that's the freaking stuff that we need to concentrate on. You lock that stuff in, all of a sudden it's like having a second freaking rib cage at the lumbar spine. All of a sudden you start transferring the power that your legs generate into the bar. That's the freaking game changer for me, man. That's what we have to think about moving forward. Appreciate you guys. I have to get out of here, go to work, otherwise I'll be late. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.